Good morning on Tuesday, November 7th. It's episode 312 of the 359 podcast. My name is BVG, and your hosts today include Ben Fox, Rubin, and Roger Cheng.
The OGs.
Morning.
What's up, everybody?
Hello.
We've got a great lineup for you. We're talking about Amazon Key and the backlash and why Ben doesn't think backlash means as much as we think it does. And we'll
Analytically speaking.
and we'll be talking about we're going to talk about BlackBerry again, partially because I want to talk about BlackBerry, but the shakeup with the U.S. phone market, and so where all the rankings are, and how BlackBerry actually played a part in it, an unlikely part in how the rankings shook out, and then we'll just offer up a tease, a little plug for CNET Magazine, our cover star Chadwick Boseman got an interview, or we did an interview with him. He talks a lot about Marvel's Black Panther, and a little bit of a shout out to Lynn Law for her story, part of the Turned On package. This is about sex. Yeah, sex.
Online, yeah.
It's actually about sex ed. This one's about contemporary sex education, the use of mediums like online videos and VR. It's actually a really smart piece. You should definitely check it out.
As we're obviously the correct parties to be giving you the speech about the birds and the bees.
I know.
We are not.
I feel my face turning red as I speak. But if you have any questions on these topics, hopefully not the sex one, please leave them in the comments section, and we will get to them in 3 minutes and 59 seconds.
We're apparently 13-year-old boys. All right, stay tuned, everybody. We're going to record the podcast and come back, and we'll chat in the chat, ironically enough, in 3 minutes and 59 seconds from 3, 2.
Welcome to the 359. I'm Roger Cheng.
I'm Ben Fox Rubin.
Amazon Key launches tomorrow. The in-home delivery service elicits some serious public backlash, but Ben, you still think it has a shot, right?
I mean, I just analytically speaking, I don't personally have a horse in this game.
Sure.
But analytically speaking, I think, if you were only paying attention to social media, you would think that this thing was dead on arrival, and that's just not true.
Right.
And the reason for that is that, privacy, speaking of privacy, people tend to say one thing and do another.
Yeah,
and
you called this the privacy paradox?
It's what's called the privacy paradox, and generally people talk a big game when it comes to privacy.
I feel like that sounds like an episode of Star Trek.
Yeah, but
right.
at the same time, it's been shown over and over and over again that people will tend to veer toward convenience as opposed to privacy.
Right.
And that's why something like Amazon Key, if it provides enough benefits for people and there's enough positive word of mouth around it, it could catch on and it could end up being something significant.
Now, beyond privacy, I saw complaints, and granted, like you said, these are kind of knee-jerk reactions, but I saw concerns about, what if the dog gets let out, right? Or
right.
Other practical things like that.
That's
right?
so minor compared
Right.
to some of the social media responses. I mean, people were saying the delivery guy is going to come in and murder me.
Right.
Right. These were very negative responses, and I think that that's currently just noise. Those are probably people that may not buy the service at all, and people are going to vote for this kind of thing with their wallets, and I would say, wait and see if this is something that does actually happen.
And at least in your story, it seemed like the older you were, the less likely you were to try the service out. But kind of looking at it backwards, is this really going after millennials or younger folks, or who exactly is the target demographic for this service?
For the time, that's a very good question. For the time being, it seems as though millennials seem to be very much into this whole convenience economy thing.
Yeah.
So maybe they would be the ones to go for it. But I always thought that the older you get, the more likely you are to try to want to get in-home services. And that's why a service like this might actually be beneficial.
For sure. I mean, that's the thing. If for younger folks, they're not necessarily living in those houses that would really benefit from the service, right?
Right. And one other thing, I talked to the CEO of Latch, which works on providing a smart door lock. And one concept that he had that I thought was really interesting was that one day your smart door lock might be integrated with your Uber ride, where you've got a hot meal plated and ready waiting for you at the dinner table, which I was oh my God, what an incredible idea.
Right.
If something like this were to catch on.
All right, well, that's all the time we have. Next up, we want to talk about BlackBerry. The curse is still alive.
It never ended.
So just a little bit of background. Chinese consumer electronics company TCL, which makes TVs and cheap phones, they started selling BlackBerries. They were actually on a pretty good streak last year. They were number 5 in the U.S. They started selling Blackberries and they've dropped to 6th. So
Ouch.
they added a new phone to their lineup. They didn't change their lineup that much, but they added Blackberry to the lineup and it somehow ended up doing worse.
What do you think BlackBerry needs to do to actually generate interest in sales? I mean, like they switched over to Android because the BlackBerry operating system really wasn't getting traction. Did that work?
No, not at all at this point. Like it's still kind of sinking into irrelevancy. Remember, it's not BlackBerry that makes these phones anymore. They've sort of outsourced or they've licensed out the name to TCL to make BlackBerry phones. TCL just hasn't really done a great job of promoting this stuff. I mean, there are still some BlackBerry diehards out there, but it's really hard to find these phones. I think that's part of the big problem.
Yeah.
All right. Lastly, I just want to give out 2 shout-outs. One to Lynn Law on her story, part of the Turned On Sex Package. This is a look at contemporary sex ed, which is sort of this falls somewhere between a clinical lecture and porn, but it takes everything from virtual reality to online videos.
Great story.
Different mediums to educate folks, not just kids, but adults on
Hopefully
sex.
not too young.
Well, yeah, definitely not too young. And then lastly, the latest issue of CNET Magazine's out, and we've got an interview with Chadwick Boseman, Black Panther himself.
Woo!
Gives us a couple cool tidbits on the upcoming Marvel Universe. So that's all the time we have for those stories and more. Check us out on CNET. I'm Roger Cheng.
I'm Ben Fox Rubin.
Thanks for listening.
All right, thanks, everybody. That's a conclusion of the recording of the podcast. Hangout, I'm going to go ahead and start digging through the chat, see if we got any good questions or comments to address. In the meantime, Roger and Ben, you want to expand on some of these things we always have to hustle through at the end of the show?
I
It's
know.
a shame we have to kind of cut them
I mean,
off.
with Amazon Key, I mean, I get the privacy concerns there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and to your point, a lot of that was sort of knee-jerk reaction. People haven't tried the service out yet.
Well, and there's
but-
also a silliness to it,
But
right?
no, but
it's
isn't
very
that-
easy
isn't-
to mock.
But isn't
because-
some of that concern valid though?
Absolutely. And this is not going to take off if the word of mouth is very negative and
Right.
people have negative associations and negative responses to it. This is not a slam dunk by any means. Like, that is not what I was trying to suggest.
Right.
It's just, it's not the opposite either, where just because people were complaining about it and mocking it on social media doesn't mean that it's not going to have a positive launch. So what Amazon is going to need to do, especially to protect their reputation, is to make sure that those delivery drivers are well trained, that they don't accidentally let out anybody's pets, that like that, and that the
And they don't
service
murder
actually,
people.
and that they
They
don't
definitely
murder
don't murder
people.
people. That's like a
and
big
that,
one.
and that and that people start to get comfortable and start to
Right.
realize that there is a convenience factor here. Because this is really just the first step for them as far as the in-home delivery service. What's going to be coming in the coming months is a dog walker, maid service, plumber, all these other additional services, professional services are also going to integrate into this. And personally, I think that has a lot of potential to really expand what commerce looks like in the future. So as
Right.
an e-commerce and, future of commerce reporter, I find the concept fascinating, but if people don't like it, if people feel like their privacy is being infringed, and if there are very negative, like one negative story about this could bomb the whole program.
Right. And just a reminder, how much does the service cost?
It starts at $250. It includes free installation, and it
That includes
launches,
the smart lock as well? Do you have to buy
It
the smart
includes
lock?
the smart lock. I don't know if you have the associated smart locks from Kwikset or Yale already installed. If all you need to do is then add in the security camera. I'm not sure if they're going to let you do that, but at this point, it's $250 for a door lock and the security camera that Amazon makes.
So the big question is, are you going to do it?
I'm considering it.
Okay.
I mean, like, it starts at $250. It goes up to I think $320 or something.
Huh.
That's like.
Wait, what's the 320?
It
tier,
depends which door locks you buy.
Oh, got it.
So it's definitely a significant upfront cost, and we don't really have a big problem leaving packages at our stoop.
Right.
But at the same time, is it something that maybe we want to consider? I mean, like, I've been thinking about it, but no, I haven't jumped into it yet.
Okay. Questions, Brent?
Well, Josh and a number of people in the chat are generally just like, this is kind of neat, but cautious because you're already afraid of smart locks getting hacked in general.
Yeah.
So people are kind of leaning away from that, regardless of Amazon's efforts in this part. When you brought up the idea of the dog walkers and other services, plumbers, et cetera, being included on this, I'm wavering back and forth. I first thought this is a neat idea, but I have an apartment, so I can't really participate in it. But the idea of being able to remotely control because I need a cat sitter when I go away sometimes.
Yeah.
Those are very incentivizing aspects to me. But at the
Right,
same,
which Amazon recognizes, and I think that's why this isn't a pilot program. They're launching in 37 cities. They really want to make a big splash with this, and they're making the biggest push for in-home delivery that anybody is doing. Like Walmart is doing like a straight-to-fridge pilot program where like a delivery person is going to come in with your groceries and put them directly in your fridge.
Yeah.
But it's a pilot. They're just kind of
How does
testing the waters.
How does that work though?
It's also with a smart door lock.
Oh, okay.
So they teamed up with August.
Okay.
And so there's like a lot of these retailers are like, we're going to push these services into your home.
I mean, you did make the point that Airbnb has sort of made us a little bit more comfortable about hanging out in someone's home or opening up your home to somebody else. Just like Uber, you're basically using your own personal car. This is sort of an evolution of that. Being able to like allow people to
in a way
hang out in your house.
is it
for a
wrong
bit.
to say that there's like this weird like digital commune kind of happening right now? This new shared resource without going into saying the word communism in it.
I mean, like,
Well,
there's definitely like the tech companies are like definitely know that they can serve you more services if you
Good neighbor policy.
or if you're willing to give up a little bit more privacy.
Yeah.
And talking
I mean,
to this,
that's sort of the bottom line theme for pretty much every tech company now, right?
Yeah.
It's like
And-
give up a little bit more of your identity, your privacy,
And we'll give
in
you more
this-
stuff.
In this case, personal space. And yeah, we'll give you more stuff. It will make your life a little bit easier.
No,
Right.
that's the
And, like,
American way.
But
man.
for a lot of people, though, that's the thing. Like, I do kind of somewhat agree with Ben in that, like, for a lot of people, that convenience will be enough to kind of give up
Yeah.
that level of privacy.
talking to a professor, Cliff Lampy from the University of Michigan. I talked
Way
to
to
him
name
for this
drop.
story.
Way to name drop.
I mean, like, he's not like famous or anything, but he's super helpful. So I wanted to mention him by name. But he talked about the fact that, like, in general, for people, privacy is a vague notion that tends to get pushed away for concrete benefits.
Yep.
So if you have like this concrete benefit of, I'm going to get a cheaper ride from point A to point B, as in with Uber,
Right.
then, maybe certain issues of privacy or personal space
Just give
get
up my
waved
social
away.
security number. It's cool.
Right, but like
I totally get your point though. Like if there is a tangible benefit, your brain will sort of jump to that first, and like the privacy concern, which is definitely a bit more amorphous, like that
Right.
kind of gets pushed to the back for
so
sure.
actually, I this didn't get into the story, but this is a good like behind the story kind of thing. Is that I ended the conversation being like, what you're saying, it sounds like we're just basically frogs being boiled alive slowly, and isn't this just going to result in us all getting like chip implants? And he said, if people really want see a positive benefit from chip implants, then we are going to have chip
Yeah.
implants. It
Yeah.
kind of blew my mind a little bit. I was just like, oh my God, that's like, yeah, I guess that's
And
possible.
as I was telling you, like our own Katie Collins has a chip implanted in her arm.
It's not even science fiction anymore.
No, it's not. Like she's had it for a while too, and I think the only thing it does is I think if you tap it against a phone, like her like business card pops up or something. Yeah.
That's not that convenient.
No.
What is the point of that?
It was done as an
Wait,
experiment.
a physical business card pops out of her skin?
No, on your phone, like
Kasproing.
if you tap into somebody else's phone, like her like bio comes up.
Oh,
or
her
something.
business card is embedded in her hand,
It
and
just
she
flies.
can
It just flies out.
she can just give it to somebody else's
Yeah, exactly.
phone. by
So what if we
touching
get
it.
to a point where if everybody's got chips in their hands and they shake hands and it's automatic business card exchange? How creepy
That's
is that?
exactly what what it is.
Totally possible.
Ew.
I mean,
Really?
like,
Why
it's-
is that? Why is that you? Like that
Because
would
I
be
picture
great.
that in a terrible situation in like a skeevy bar
Oh,
and like
I was
dudes
thinking
slipping
more
their
like
numbers to women and
yeah, but you could always
They're
delete
doing
it.
that anyway.
It's true.
They're doing that the low tech way anyway. Being
And like, no, when
"Here
you're at a
you
bar,
go."
you can switch the mode. So like, if you're the woman, you can like offer up the fake business card with
or
different name,
you,
different
or
number.
you make his like chip like make like a very loud noise like
yeah, not interested at all.
do not like
No, I was just
weird
thinking,
ass world
No,
we've built.
like at CES, I would like we meet so many people at these trade shows and at various conferences. Like, I would love to have a way to like instantly track. But a lot of people are like, "Sorry, I don't have any business cards. Ran out of business cards." That's like you hear that everywhere. It'd be kind of awesome to like shake the guy's hand, like boom, business card.
yeah. I mean, like I'm
some
not
people
on
in the chat
board.
may disagree with you.
I'm not on board with the chips in body.
Oh, but you will be.
in body. Yeah, I mean, I guess so.
Listen, if CNET paid me to test it out, I would do it. Until then, I'm not volunteering for it.
I think that's
Okay.
what happened with Katie. She did it as a as an
It's
article
work,
that
yeah.
she wrote for Wired back before she worked to CNET. Yeah.
She still has it.
Anybody
has it.
out there honestly interested in pursuing that?
Yeah,
We'd
chip
love to hear
implants,
from
we-
you.
Right. And
Definitely love to
also,
hear that.
going back to the original concept of in-home delivery and services, obviously would also love to hear from people about that too.
I know we
Yes,
went from like
please.
in-home delivery to chips
I mean,
in
like
your
that was
hand.
that's the thing is that like
Philippe-
when you talk about a slippery slope of privacy,
Yep.
invariably you end up with well, I guess we're gonna have chips embedded in our bodies, and like we have a coworker that has one.
There you go.
So
It's not fiction.
it's Brave New World.
All right, so on that note, let's get back into the chat. Drone Wolf Media, why would I let a complete stranger in my home when the way packages are left at my front door has been working perfectly fine for me for 50 years? Makes no sense.
Right.
People are getting too lazy. Just to clarify, though, he said he would let Amazon in there before Walmart.
Ah, there you go.
And then
That's
there's a discussion
interesting.
between him and our buddy Matt Datch about, what about
Datch.
the size of packages. So we'll go into that shortly. But, I personally, from my perspective, I've lived in a few apartment buildings. I've never had a front doorman or anything like that.
Right.
Sometimes leaving the package there is a nightmare.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
I've never had
it
anything
depends
run
on your
off.
neighborhood.
I've never had anything run off, but I've had more than a few occasions where the delivery driver's like, I've been instructed not to leave anything here. You need to come to the post office, which is
Yeah.
open between 1:30 and 1:37 every weekday while you're
and
at
we
work.
have we have coworkers that send their packages to the office because it's not a
Convenient.
safe option
Yeah.
to leave it on
Well,
your
that's the
stoop
thing.
in the
Like,
middle of the city.
I'm sorry, who's his name? For the person who just talked about like how it worked for like the last 50 years.
Drone Wolf.
Yeah, that for you, this is not the service for you at all.
Definitely not. You're very fortunate.
But you are extremely fortunate. There are folks, even who live in the suburbs, packages get dropped off. They either get stolen or damaged. I mean, you hear reports about all the time, especially during the holidays when people are kind of roving around the neighborhoods knowing that there are packages waiting to be
Right.
taken.
And
like, that's become an increasing risk.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you call Amazon will replace the package. So, I was talking to folks over the weekend about this, and they're saying that they mentioned to me that, look, if your package gets stolen, then that's all the liability is on Amazon. Why should I be taking the liability by paying $250 so that Amazon doesn't lose as many packages and has to replace them?
That's
which
a good
I thought was
point.
a good argument.
Yeah.
I mean, but if it is
the end
a
of the day-
time-sensitive package, then maybe this is something that you want to consider.
Yeah, some people depend on that. For those who may be, stuck in their home a little more, less mobile than others, they depend on these deliveries. Of course, that kind of defeats the purpose if you need to have somebody drop it off for you. I don't know where my mindset went on that.
It's really but it's a peace of mind type of thing where you don't want to check the stoop all the time to see if your package showed up. You know that it's behind the door and it's locked. My feeling is that especially in certain neighborhoods, the second your neighbor gets attacked by a porch pirate, you're much more likely to end up purchasing the service.
Yeah.
Pirate.
Right, because
Is that what
there
they're
was-
called? Are they
Yeah,
called-
that's what they're called.
That's-
Wow, porch pirates.
Porch pirate.
I like
but,
that.
But they're I think also when you call Amazon about this stuff, what exactly was their answer to you before, as opposed to we're just going to send you a new one? At least now they have some sort of service that
Yeah.
could help out.
So is this going to put neighborhood watches out of business?
Maybe.
I mean, not
Yeah,
like
I grew up in a really
not like
small,
anyone's getting paid to be part of a neighborhood watch. but-
Right.
I grew up in a really small town though,
Yeah.
and a very, very tight neighborhood as well. And we all let the Con Ed guy come in and read your meter. Ours was in the basement. He just knew to come in the side door or whatever like that, and it wasn't a problem. My cat sitter has a copy of keys to my house that I trust them with.
Right.
Wow.
It's where does your trust lie? It's very
It's true.
subjective. It's very
Right.
individualistic.
And people do tend to trust big companies, but better or
No, they
worse. Actually, according to this professor, yes, they do.
Really?
Is that people have a tendency to trust big companies more than they probably should, because there's an
Well, yeah,
implied-
relative to a small mom and pop business that you've never really worked with.
Right.
If you have no reputational relationship, then yeah, that
there's an
Amazon's going to
assumption-
be.
There's an
a little bit more
assumption that they're
trustworthy.
gonna there's an assumption from people that they protect your data because it's their incentive to.
Right, there's more liability as well. You
Yeah.
can go after if the small business loses your data and you go after them, there's not much you can get, right?
Right.
But Amazon's got deep pockets. There's a liability factor.
It's also, it goes back to for instance, Google and Facebook have an enormous amount of information on people, but I don't see a lot of people not using Google Maps or like, getting rid of their Facebook over privacy concerns. So it goes back again to the privacy paradox.
I don't know. I'm thinking about it.
We're all thinking about it, but like,
we'll never
come
do
back
it.
to
We
me
never
when you
pull
do
the
it.
plug.
Yeah, right. Okay, so let's get back into the chat. There's still some really great conversation going on. One proposed compromise or solution from Scott. I can see an in-between market with a smart lock box thing to take packages without granting entry into the home.
That exists.
Or
Oh,
front
yeah.
mudroom. So didn't Amazon do that in a partnership with like 7-Elevens for a while, where you could have
They
like
have
a
Amazon
PO
lockers.
Right,
Yeah.
but
Right.
what if that you could install one of those on your property?
There is a startup, I don't remember what it's called, that does actually do that. The problem is with like larger, bulky items.
Exactly. They're discussing things like big TVs,
Yeah.
bicycles.
Right. It's like probably and
Just have a really massive Amazon locker in your house.
from the
in the front of your house.
from the press demo that I went to 2 weeks ago for Amazon Key, they also mentioned that a lot of people installed Amazon Key like the side door to their garage. So it also prevents the delivery person from getting direct access to your front door.
So what if they took the humans out of it completely? I think this might be a bit of a sarcastic statement from Stellar Tech, but the idea of a personal automated bot that unlocks the doors and physically travels for packages, goes back and forth. So like essentially the drone can get into your home, but not the human.
They trust the drone more than humans.
I don't. I've seen Terminator too many times.
But that is, I mean, like, that could happen. I mean,
I feel like that is somewhere on Amazon's roadmap, right?
Right.
In-home delivery with drones.
Right,
and
but like
robots.
then they're just gonna cut out the people completely, and it's drone delivering to another drone.
Who's just ordering stuff?
It's just robots ordering stuff from other robots.
It is interesting to see the multiple sides of this, and there's way more than two going on in the chat. And
look,
people
I'm glad that
how much
it's
you
at
value
least-
privacy versus that convenience.
But
We
this
should
is the
put a
thing.
poll up.
I think at the very least, I'm glad that this has sparked some level of discussion, because the social media response immediately following this was almost entirely
Get off
negative.
my lawn.
Yeah.
Right, and I felt like there was a complete misinterpretation of the fact that like people let all sorts of service providers in their home already.
Well, not without
Like I said, the Con Ed,
not without being there though. Do you?
sometimes yes, sometimes no. I mean, like, I had a
I've
maid
never done
service.
that. I've never let like Verizon in my house without. Like,
I'm
keeping an
talking
eye on
about
them.
we already had an existing relationship, but we did have a maid that showed up and cleaned the house once every 2 weeks,
I
and
mean,
she had a key.
we have that with the nanny. Like
Yeah.
our nanny has keys. Like that would.
right.
that would
So my
But that's
feeling
somebody
is
you personally interviewed and
Yeah,
hired
exactly.
yourself,
There was serious vetting,
not someone
involved
who
with
was
that.
assigned to your
Right.
and that
region.
that it rotates. But my argument is that this isn't such a foreign concept. I mean, like in many ways, this exists in a variety of different social interactions. But at the
Right.
same time, the social norms will have to change to a certain degree for this to actually be an effective program.
All right, let's keep the conversation going. We're almost out of time. Some other alternatives, and Fatboy 19831. I would let Amazon in my garage or my shed, but not my home.
Yeah, that seems like a
Is
good
that an
compromise.
option for this situation?
Yes,
Can you essentially
absolutely.
tell them where they can go?
Yes.
And that's
As long as there's
interesting.
a door, yes.
Got
So
it.
a garage
Assuming
or
you
shed
have
could work.
exactly. Assuming
yeah,
you have
I
a
don't-
separate garage.
I don't have a
separate door.
garage.
I don't have a
Yeah.
garage.
Yeah.
Right, but like it really does depend on what your house looks like, what neighborhood you live in, how much money you have. I mean, like $250 starting off is going to price out a certain segment of the population. So that's why,
It's definitely
like,
a luxury.
when you asked about millennials, I was just like, I don't know. The younger you are, the less likely you are to like have just $250 to
lying
burn on
around.
this.
Yeah,
and you're
yeah, yeah.
probably not going to own a house.
Yeah, that's
so
the big thing.
It's maybe there's just not going to be a market for it.
I
It's
mean, I
hard
do
to
think
say.
there's a market for this for apartment owners too. Not necessarily for Amazon Key the way it's run, but there's definitely demand. Like folks like Brian, like they need some sort of
Yes.
service to like allow for those packages to be safely and consistently delivered.
Right, and the company Latch is the one that's doing that right now with in-lobby delivery, and they're hoping to eventually do in-apartment delivery as well.
Oh, there you go.
That would be interesting to see. Keep going on the conversation. There's discussion now about drones dropping your packages through the chimney. And
I love that idea. Santa drones.
Dash says, isn't that just called Santa? Yes. Christmas 2018, NORAD tracks Robo Santa and his 8 Uber reindeer.
Well, wasn't that premise of Futurama? Wasn't Santa a robot? Is Futurama?
Yes.
the
Like, this
blatantly
is-
evil John
Yeah,
Goodman
exactly.
robot.
But
Yeah.
like that's the beginning of it. Like what we're talking about now is sort of the first step to that ultimate evolution of evil
Right.
Santa robot.
So let's
gonna happen, my friends.
continue. Datch is filled with great comments and commentary today. Ben, you talked about this service. Amazon Key has a special delivery arsenal, right? It's a different. It's not a standard delivery like you get your packages from FedEx or UPS.
Correct.
These are very specific, assigned.
It's
and
through
what's the vetting
Amazon's
process like? Is there a thorough background check for these drivers?
That's what they claim. Yeah, it's through Amazon. It's third-party services that Amazon has set up with to provide Amazon logistics. So no, it's not through FedEx, UPS, or U.S. Postal Service. Maybe it will be eventually. They say the drivers are vetted. They have existing relationships with them. These are the drivers that already deliver a lot of your Amazon packages. So, but you probably don't know them by name. Maybe you do know your mailman, but you know.
How long until Amazon just starts their own actual truck service and
They have
usurps?
one.
They do?
I mean, like they own a lot of their own trucks, and that's also like not so outrageous because like Walmart does the same thing, and so does Target. So you get to be big enough as a retailer. You
But
do
that
have
doesn't
your
go.
own
Does
truck
that go
service.
straight to consumer, or is that more from like facility to facility?
It depends. Most of those are facility to facility,
Yeah.
but Amazon also does a lot of like delivery straight to customers, depending on what service it is.
I've never seen an actual Amazon truck pull up.
I'm still waiting for that treasure truck. I haven't seen.
Besides the treasure truck, I've seen it.
Yeah.
I know.
Several times
I was
now.
not here when it came.
That would be great
was
if they
great.
did have treasure trucks start doing home deliveries, because I think people would really love it.
Could you see kids running down the street after
Yeah.
the treasure
Oh,
truck like
yeah.
an ice
And
cream
they're
truck?
like,
Exactly.
and it's Jeff Bezos like doling out like beige boxes.
But instead of
Oh
like
my God,
the
that would
ice
be
cream
amazing.
song, it's playing like a Nokia 3310 ringtone or something like that.
This is a great idea. Yes.
I think we got something on our hands here. You
We
guys
do.
ready to quit this and go after
Yeah.
that?
We.
No, I meant like quit CNET and go start the trucks.
Yeah. And well, one of us has to shave his head and be Bezos. So,
yeah.
You know.
I don't have
Not
the
it.
I don't
Yeah.
have the giant guns for it.
Nor do I. All right. We should probably wrap things
We
up.
are out of time.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Hey, if you liked anything you saw or heard here, check us out on CNET. Our podcast is also available on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Feedburner, and Google Play Music. See y'all tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Thanks, everyone. Great discussion today.
Yep.
Thanks.